It is 44 BC, and one of the greatest Roman generals and statesmen is lying dead on the Senate floor of Rome. His name is Gaius Julius Caesar. There is an old belief that when someone dies, he sees his life flash before his eyes. Who knows what Caesar saw at this instant? He might have seen a few glimpses of the most important parts of his life. Maybe he vividly remembered a few years ago when one of his greatest foes, the leader of the Gauls, bowed down to him after the Battle of Alesia, one of the greatest battles of antiquity in the cold plains of modern-day France. After centuries of wars between the Romans and the Gauls, the former came out on the winning side, and the whole of Gaul now belonged to Rome. This part of Western Europe would remain part of the Roman Empire for centuries thanks to Caesar's conquests. The inhabitants of that region would also become among the most Romanized people in the empire. Although the Gauls and their leader Vercingetorix lost against the Romans, their epic struggle would serve as a starting point to what would become the French national identity in the coming centuries. He may also have remembered Cleopatra, supposedly the most beautiful woman of antiquity. He probably remembered his expeditions with her on the Upper Nile and the long conversations he had with her on philosophy, mythology, and history. We will never know if Cleopatra was the most beautiful woman of antiquity. What is certain is that Caesar fell in love with her magnetic charm. He also understood the advantages of having an affair with a woman who was one of the descendants of the men who walked the earth with Alexander the Great. Cleopatra was not only the descendant of a line of illustrious Greco-Egyptian monarchs, but also the wealthiest woman in the known world. She had vast estates in Egypt, and her coffers were full of gold and precious jewels. More importantly, along her two brothers, Ptolemy VIII, Cleopatra was the only direct children of Ptolemy VII, the previous king of Egypt. Pretending to arbitrate who would be the future ruler of Egypt, Caesar did everything in his power to give the throne to her lover. Caesar's favors to Cleopatra triggered a civil war that pitches Cleopatra against her older brother and later her younger brother. 3 years before his assassination, he ended up having a child with her, Caesarion. After Caesar's death, Cleopatra would fight again for the throne of Egypt with his younger brother and his supporters. Caesar might also have remembered the funerals of his first wife, Cornelia. He remembered the great funeral oration she gave her while her body was being cremated. Although she is less remembered than Cleopatra, Cornelia was also a woman of great nobility. She was related to many of the most influential figures of the late Roman Republic. Caesar married her when he was only 17 years old, just after the death of his father. Caesar had everything to win by marrying her. She was from a very prestigious and wealthy family. By marrying her, Caesar acquired a very important dowry, making him one of the most important men in Rome. This alarmed Sulla, the dictator of the Republic of the time, since Caesar could use his newfound wealth to buy political power. Sulla gave him the choice to divorce her or lose his wife. Caesar refused and chose to exile himself in the east. He probably also recalled the time when he was captured by pirates and brought to an island. He remembered how when the pirates asked for a ransom, he had said he was worth more and that the pirates should ask for a bigger ransom. He spent months with them, conversing in Greek. He also practiced his oratory arts with them. When he was finally freed and returned to Rome, he mounted a revenge expedition to kill them. He crucified them. The life of Caesar spans 3 different continents: Europe, Africa, and Asia. This is more than a dozen modern countries. If you live in a country that borders the Mediterranean Sea or part of Western Europe, it is most likely that Caesar impacted the history of your country. Caesar was instrumental in the transformation of the Roman Republic into an empire. Before him, there were a few strong men and dictators, but once they died, the Senate would retake control. We are talking about folks like Marius and Sulla. Although they had anti-democratic tendencies, they never wanted to change the structure of the Republic. Sulla, after implementing his reforms, willingly gave his powers away to the Senate and died peacefully in a villa in southern Italy. Caesar was assassinated exactly because he openly mocked the Roman Republic and democracy. He publicly mocked Sulla to have given away his powers. A few months before his assassination, Mark Antony, his most loyal lieutenant, publicly placed the diadem of a king on Caesar's head. They afterwards said it was a joke, but many upper-class Romans suspected that they were testing the water. Since his successes in Gaul and the Roman Civil War, many people accused him of wanting the throne for himself. The Roman Republic at the time had secured control of most of the land around the Mediterranean and Western Europe. But a new enemy was rising in the east, the Parthians. The Parthians presented themselves as the successors of the previous Persian empires and had ambitions in the eastern Mediterranean as well. There was an obscure Roman prophecy that pretended that only a Roman king would be able to defeat the Parthians. Knowing very well that the Roman plebeian was superstitious, Caesar's assassins knew that he would be tempted to take the title of king to realize this prophecy. Caesar was supposed to sail to the east in a few days. The conspirators knew that they had to act fast. In a few weeks, Caesar would be surrounded by his army, made of loyal lieutenants and guards. Nobody would be able to touch him. The conspirators therefore agreed to commit the act at the place and moment where Caesar would be vulnerable. But who exactly were the co-conspirators, and what were their grievances towards Caesar? The leader of the clique was a man named Cassius. We will talk more about him in the coming videos. Cassius was jealous towards Caesar for many decades. He witnessed his meteoric ascension to the highest positions of the Republic. He saw him defeat the Gauls and become extremely wealthy a few years earlier. He also lost against him during the Civil War when Caesar crossed the Rubicon. He was deeply jealous of the admiration that the Roman people and even some of the members of the Senate had towards him. The other ringleader was the infamous Brutus. He was the son of Caesar's mistress, Calpurnia. Caesar considered him a son. When Brutus came to stab him to finish him, Caesar, feeling betrayed, said, "You too, my son?" Brutus' betrayal is complex. When Caesar crossed the Rubicon to depose the Senate, Brutus actually fought on the side of the Senate with Pompey, the man who executed his father. Brutus should have logically fought on the side of Caesar, but Brutus was idealistic and saw the democratic institutions of the Roman Republic as sacred. He also, most likely, believed, like many, that Caesar wanted a crown for himself. Ironically, one of Brutus' ancestors is said to have been a ringleader of the group that removed the last Roman king. The last ringleader was Cicero, another popular Republican. He was also a great orator, a lawyer, and an excellent writer. Most people who study Latin learn this language from his work. Like Brutus, he was idealistic, and he saw the institutions of the Roman Republic as holy. Unlike Brutus, he came from an Italian middle-class family. Although he was not a patrician, his immense wealth, oratory skills, and knowledge made him respected among the upper Roman classes. There were a few other important figures involved in the assassination of Caesar, and we will talk about them more in detail during this playlist. This series on Caesar will not only cover his whole life, but also the major events that happened during his early life, like the Social War, the Mithriatic War, Sulla's Civil War, and so on. This series will also cover the Servile Wars, which were large wars caused by slave rebellions. We will also talk about the major characters of the late Roman Republic. Those people directly or indirectly shaped Caesar. We are talking about Sulla, Pompey, Cicero, Cato, and many others. Please do not forget to like, subscribe to our channel, and share this video. Finally, we would like to highlight that this video was made possible by Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is a powerful 3D engine that enables the creation of stunning video games and 3D movies. It is available for free and offers a marketplace where you can purchase assets such as environments, 3D models, and even code snippets for your projects. We encourage you to explore the offerings of Unreal Engine by visiting unrealengine.com.